This is All About Home Construction, and here's your hosts, Terry Cannell-Beck and Randy Blake.
That's right. Good morning, Randy.
Morning, Terry.
Happy Saturday.
Everybody out there.
That's it, man. Happy Saturday. Ooh, Randy's at the Rock and Roll Kitchen this morning.
Yes, I am. I'm doing my part of the show live right here at VFW.
Love it. Love it. Right off of State Farm Road here in Boone. That means it's good breakfast this morning, right?
Yep. Just come out of the kitchen just a few minutes ago.
Nice. So what's on the menu today?
Well, we had a request for sausage links, and we put that on today. And, we have a lot of people wants to fry green tomatoes.
Right. It's that time of year especially.
And, then we have a standard breakfast. And it's all you can eat for $12.
Nice. Can't beat
only
that.
one to-go box per person.
Cannot beat that. So get on over there.
Every now and then you get somebody try to sneak in and get two to-go boxes for one person.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You can't do that. Well, what time is it? How long are you going till today?
11 o'clock.
Nice. So get on over there until 11 o'clock and definitely get your breakfast on this morning. It's a lovely Saturday morning. It's a little bit of a cool high country Saturday as far as like summer starting.
Yes, it is.
But
it's really surprising that it's just cool.
Yeah, it's like in the 40s right as we woke up, and so, but just give it a few weeks and we'll be complaining. Oh man, it's too hot, Randy.
That's the reason I'm here so I can go here in a little while. I got about 11 acres of hay down. So.
Well, I guess this would be good hay weather. I mean, given how it's not raining today and it's not hot, at least, it's not bad.
It's an odd year, too.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I don't know how many people planted potatoes on Good Friday, but I just wonder if they've rotted.
Right. That's a good question. Yeah, I hadn't talked to anyone about it, but the weather's certainly been kind of weird this year. And what are you seeing, though, in terms of the hay? Are you seeing, like, decent quality hay coming out of it?
Yeah, well, which I spray for weeds, so that helped out a bunch. But I went ahead and did a liquid fertilizer this year and liquid calcium on it. And it's something new I wanted to try. It's not a lot of nitrogen, but it's high in phosphate and potash. The liquid stuff is.
Yep.
So it's pretty good.
Good. Well, that's
mild winters help out a bunch.
Right. Well, that's what I was wondering. I know it's been a little cooler, a little wetter overall, and that's what I was wondering though. Like, but it's been kind of consistent with the rest of the winter, though, right? Like we've had some pretty simple days.
As long as it don't turn off dry.
Well, looking at the forecast, I don't think you have to worry about that this week. I think it's going to be the opposite. There's chances of rain.
No, I'm talking about after first cut. Nice couple years
I know.
After first cut, it dried out pretty fast, and the ground in the second cut wasn't very good.
Well, maybe I always forget. This is the La Nina. Is that right? I always get them mixed up.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens, right?
Pardon me?
We'll see what happens with the weather, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what's been going on with the world of construction for you?
Just working along, trying to beat a living out of it. So.
Nice.
And but I did want to go over today, and I emailed it to you.
Yes.
House designing, home building worksheets is really coming on pretty strong to try to help people with what they want.
Well,
so there's one thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the worst things that we've talked a lot about this is like one of the things when it comes to building is trying to figure out, like, first of all, what you want, and then it's once you figure out like an idea of, hey, I want this, then there's specifics of, color and choice and other things. And so I like this checklist because I really think it's a cool little, like, I don't want to say interview, but like a cool little way to think about, okay, this is where you need to get your mindset, right? As a homeowner who's trying to build a house and plan a house, and then honestly, as the house is done, right? Did you get what you wanted out of it?
And this helps the house run smoother.
Yeah.
And
totally.
People don't realize doing all their homework ahead of time helps out a bunch. And
right.
That's what I tell them. I say, go to Lowe's and look at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And because they have the biggest inventory of anybody around.
Right.
And get an idea of what you want, and but there's 10 essentials in this checklist for your house.
Right.
And that helps out a bunch.
Well, one thing I think as a broad thing that a lot of jobs in terms of like keeping costs down, right? Like one of the things that people go out of budget on are change orders, like because it costs money for change orders, right? Like you've got to redo things sometimes. You're in the middle of it and you stop. You have to go get a different product, or things like that. So, to me anyway, this checklist really is just going to be one of those that kind of helps you decide before, right? This is the planning stage, and it helps
Correct.
you kind of look at it, and you're not going to, you're sticking.
Then they have a cost.
Right. And
on what it's going to do, and there's so much, the price difference is so great for different things.
Right.
The number one on the list is interior and exterior doors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if you let's just take interior doors, and you can either get them hollow core, you can get them solid core, you can get them in wood, you can get them in masonite,
Right.
you can get them pre-hung, you can get them without, and you can get them with fixed jams. And what I mean by that is there's no trim on them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to put the trim on it. I prefer that myself because we like you've been in a house where your youngins are and they slam a door and it rattles. Okay?
Right. Yep.
Well, that's a hollow core door,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I just prefer not to have a hollow core door or pre-hung.
Right.
I want a fixed jam.
Right.
So that does increase the cost, but I'm after longevity.
Sure.
The functionality of it stuff.
But also what I liked about this. What I like about this this checklist though too is it breaks it down by the room, right? Because I'm thinking, yeah, like I agree with you on the doors, but let's just say that you have a guest bedroom, right? Well,
it does each one.
Yeah, so maybe you could put that guest bedroom. Maybe you can go with a hollow door in the, in the closet of the guest bedroom.
Correct. That's where you get away with the little cheaper stuff that will match.
Mm-hmm.
And but just think about doors. The exterior doors. You got fiberglass. You got steel.
Sure.
And you got wood doors. And then you got aluminum extruded doors with wood interior.
Right. Yep.
And I like a fiberglass door. That's a pretty reasonable door. Now your aluminum extruded doors are your high end doors, but then you have to buy a door for the DP rating for your elevation that you're building the house.
Right.
And homeowners don't even realize what a DP rating is. So.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we take our first break, and we come back, I'll ask you that question. Thanks for listening to us. Are you ready to level up your home construction game? Obviously, you've subscribed to All About Home Construction. Now we would like to ask you for some support. You can be like Dave, Bill, and Skipper and help support All About Home Construction. The links are in the show notes. That's right. All About Home Construction here on WATA. Thanks for listening to us. Happy Saturday. And Randy Blake in the Rock and Roll Kitchen at the VFW on this Saturday morning, cooking some nice breakfast. You got your gravy going on, right, Randy?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
We already got everything out there.
Sweet. Well, yes.
Rounds, pancakes, got jelly.
Ooh.
So.
What kind of jelly? I tried some dandelion. I made some dandelion jelly this year, and it's one of my favorite jellies all of a sudden.
Here comes a happy customer. Looks like you've got 3 pancakes, a wad of eggs. Darn, almighty. Better get them chickens laying. That boy's hungry.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So, well, cool stuff. Cool stuff. Well, we're kind of talking a little bit about these, the home building worksheet, and it's basically just a checklist, right? It's 10 essentials that you need, and it goes everything from doors to windows to roofing, and so on. So, but you had mentioned something just before the break about the DB ratings. What is it you mean by that?
That is design pressure rating of the window, okay? And it's for impact resistance of the window. You know, everybody out there that's my age remembers Hurricane Andrew, what it did to Florida.
Right.
Okay? So all the test centers now for windows and doors is in Miami-Dade.
Yep.
Because that got hit pretty hard. And so they've come up with this design pressure, and an example of it is a DP rating of 50 can withstand a test wind pressure of 75 pounds per square foot for 10 seconds.
Right.
All right. And so what they do is they put these windows and doors in a chamber, and they run them down to like 30 below zero. Yep. And then they'll take them up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So extremes. And then the higher the DP rating, you know, everybody laughs about it, but the frozen chicken like they use on airlines to make it look like a bird strike to keep from doing the breaking the windshield of an airplane. Well, in the Miami-Dade windows, they use an air cannon that shoots a 2x4 at it in hurricane force winds.
Right.
And now now that North Carolina has changed the winds, when you were down in Triplet, you were in a 90-mile-an-hour wind load.
Right.
On there.
Right.
Now it's not a 90. Now it's a 100-mile-an-hour wind load.
Sure. Yep.
And you go all the way up to Beach Mountain at 5,600 feet, and can be a DP 60 rating.
Right.
And so, a few years ago, we looked at a house up there where the windows had failed. Even though the windows were put in or rated for the DP for that 5,600 feet, the installer didn't install them correctly. So the winds itself buffeting the glass broke the seals on them, which caused the house to start to rot.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say, too, is like these DB ratings, though, is assuming that you build or install it according to manufacturer specifications.
Correct.
It's not just a window. In other words, it's not just a window just hanging out in the middle of it, by itself. It's built into the wall as it was intended to be used. And I think, a lot of times I think that's to me, that's one of those things that's like you could have the perfect DP as far as ratings go. You could have the perfect window, but if you don't install it correctly, you might as well not have it,
Correct. And, every window that you buy from these major companies, the instructions are taped right on the window for you to read.
Right.
And you don't know how many people just tears it off and don't look at it. I mean, if you install them from the same company, you're pretty good on it. But like a few years ago, we put in a big picture window.
Right.
Okay? And that picture window was so large, and for the DB rating, it had steel in it, so the window couldn't flex.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking through this list that you have, this checklist, and sticking with the doors and windows for just a moment here. I really like the way it's broke down because, like, kind of what I was saying before is I really think a lot of times we just sort of.
I lost you, Terry.
I think a lot of times when we're building, we think like as far as the conversation of building, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna, because you said it yourself this morning, right? I'm gonna put hollow core, or I'm not gonna put hollow core doors in. But I like this checklist because it breaks it down to every room, so that every room can be different. And we both know that, like, and maybe not so much windows. I think if we choose a window that works for the whole house, but But when it starts to break down to some of these other elements, that's where you can kind of, and I don't want to say save money in terms of like getting an inferior product, but you can cut the corners, right? You can pick and choose, okay, this is my budget, and I can choose now stuff that goes into that budget.
Well, you can, like I said before, you can go vinyl, you can go aluminum clad.
Right.
And Anderson windows out there, they have a synthetic jam and stuff like that, because wood's getting hard to find.
Right.
Good wood. Anderson, when they first started making their wood windows, everything came out of ponderosa pine, because ponderosa pine grew straight, tall, no knots.
Right.
Well, those are long gone now. Marvin is another window company that's gone into the synthetics. It's not a fiberglass. I can't remember what they call it.
Right.
I've only installed them one time, but it's trying to make a better product that lasts longer, that doesn't rot.
Right.
And that's what they're after.
Sure. Well, all right. So as we move on to this roofing on the checklist, that's the next thing up. And it breaks it down. Like, do you want cedar shingles, asphalt shingles, metal roofing, ceramic tiles, or something else, right?
Tile or other,
right?
It's something that can be a lot more.
Sure. One thing I was thinking about though is like I like this description, but it also gives you a little cost thing. But I think in the planning side of things, while we're talking about planning and just off the checklist a second, is I think it really, to me, one of those planning things and again, this is trying to, how do we build a house that to keep the cost, down a little bit, right? And for me, it's like, I love a big, gable roof. I love, with all these like, cool roof designs, I guess you would say. But the simpler the roof, the cheaper it's going to be.
The cheaper the bill.
Right. What do you see?
Even I think I know where you're going with trusses and stuff. But even trusses have changed.
Right.
And I guess about 2002, 2003 is when they came up with the energy heel.
Right.
What I mean by that is the truss is taller on top of the wall.
Right. Okay.
10 inches, so you can get your R38 in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you remember, used to be a stud would come down, and or not the stud, but your rafter would come down, and no matter what you used, you were compressing that R38 in against the
exactly
the outside wall. And a lot of times, when you're not getting that insulation on the outside of the wall, then you're causing your top plate to lose energy.
Right.
Or allow stuff in.
Exactly. Well, and that's been my
there's a science to it that people don't think about.
Well, but also when you start to get in terms of roofings and cavities like that cold, that difference in temperatures of air causes pressure difference, and essentially that's what a chimney is, right? And so sometimes I think it compounds because it's now sucking the energy in, or sucking the cold rather than just blocking it. So it's not only letting it in. Sometimes you get that chimney effect where it's sucking the air in.
Yeah, well, you give a good description of the old can lights that had the vents in them.
Yep.
Because the code, when those came out, you had to leave 2 inches of insulation away from the can light itself, right, so it wouldn't hold the heat, okay? Well, that was actually a cold spot in your ceiling.
Yeah.
And when metal roofings got to taking off in the late 90s, early 2000s, we got a lot of phone calls because guys was putting metal roofing on lathing, and but they didn't put roofing felt on them.
Right.
Synthetic felt. And in 2012, the code changes, so you can put metal on lathing as long as you use like synthetic felt paper. You can also run it horizontal or vertical. You don't have to run it horizontal.
Right.
And that makes it easy on lathing.
Yep.
But that's a cost savings by not fully sheeting your roof. For the metal roofing part, we'll cut back. But on asphalt shingles, you need to go with a good product.
Right.
And on asphalt shingles, you can use OSB 7/16. If you're going to go metal, you can't go 7/16 OSB because the screws will strip out and cause a leak.
Right.
But there is a fix for that, and that's ordering a number 14 screw, which is 35 cents a piece versus 15 cents a piece.
Right. Good. Well, I'm going to go back to those trusses for just a minute, because are trusses still like specific sizes? I mean, in other words, if you go over 32 feet, you're going to have to get like a specifically engineered truss, right?
Well, the trusses are always engineered anyhow.
Okay.
You can't. They're like your floor trusses and your roof trusses. They're generally in combination, and they are engineered for the wind load and everything else.
Right. I guess what I was wondering is when you go over a certain length, width, whatever, is there? I mean, I guess is there a difference does the price really change, or is it still relative to the foot? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like once you get over a certain size, I'm imagining you have to beef it all up, and therefore, going 40 feet instead of 30 feet, that 40 feet is going to cost you more than just 10 feet more, right? It's going to change that math altogether, and you're going to have to use different materials. You're going to build it different. Does that really play into it?
It does. And another thing, too, is you have the added bracing in your trusses when you put them on there, because the longer your length. But when you do that right there, if you got a good pitch on it, then you can actually add a bonus room to your house. See?
Right. And that was going to be my next question, right? Is it, because I think one of the overlooked, as far as like price per foot, I think one of there's a lot of options. And that's, right. First off, it starts with a good designer, a good architect, okay? Right. Well, to me, price per foot, if you're building a house, right, you're planning, you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck if you can add in a basement and the attic, right? Because you're already building parts of those things. And so, it's just, it's part of that is already going to be there. I guess is kind of the way I'm looking at it, and so now yes, you're changing it to make it livable, but a lot of the structure has to be built anyway. And so I think per foot, again, the basements and attics are really those valuable spaces that you can get those bonus rooms for less than, just buying it. In other words,
you're talking about the long lengths too. You can't always get the height that you want, because the road is only so wide.
Right.
And then you do your piggyback system that goes on top of it. That's how you make your roof taller.
What would you say is, as far as the budget goes, right? What is the ideal width and length of a house? I mean, I know we all want a certain amount of square feet and all that, but I think like we see a lot of 32.
The sky is the limit.
Right.
And golly, depends on how deep your pocketbooks are. Because, we're bidding on a house right now that is a conventional frame shed roof, and they want TGIs on it, and the TGIs are 42 feet long.
Right.
Now, there is an intermediate bearing on it, LVL, in the middle of it to help carry the load. But that's the reason all that stuff has to be engineered.
Right.
I just can't go out here and say I want a 10-inch TGI rafter, and it will pass the wind loads and the snow loads. That's a big one too.
Sure. Yep.
I did, talk to an installation company this last weekend, because Buck's not doing it anymore.
Right.
And I got which hopefully they're going to come on the radio show here for long, and they want to talk about the spray and foam, how the spray and foams have come down in price.
Good.
To regular installation and stuff.
Well, I've always liked that. It's just the cost has been the issue, right?
Well, I like foam. I started using it around windows in '98, and the first time I used it in the house, Tommy Burleson said, "Randy, you're going to put something on that. I don't like how that looks." And so we had to put duct tape over the foam to hide it.
Oh, wow. Love it.
But there's one thing about it. If you shim your windows and doors correctly, use the low extension foam, that totally takes the vibration out of it.
Yes.
And it makes it warmer. Let's talk about exterior doors. We have to. A lot of problems that we see is a lot of contractors don't flash their doors proper.
Right.
And with aluminum thresholds and stuff, that's an area that will allow the cold to penetrate through it. Even though it's got air holes in it, it will still lose so much heat through that threshold.
Right.
Same thing with the flashing that goes around it. If it's aluminum flashing or galvanized flashing, it will allow so much of the temperature change in it. So that foam around it will actually slow it down a little.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to take another break right here, all about home construction. We'll come right back right after this. Thanks for listening to us. Are you looking for a sawmill dealership that can provide you with the quality equipment you need to get the job done? Look no further than Blue Ridge Sawmills. We offer the full line of Hudson sawmills and sawmilling equipment, from portable sawmills to skidding winches. At Blue Ridge Sawmills, we understand that every project is different, which is why we offer a wide range of sawmilling services. We can help you from everything from finding the right mill for your farm, hobby, or even your business. We also offer a variety of sawmilling supplies such as blades and debarkers, so you can get everything you need in one place. If you're looking for a sawmill dealership that can provide you with the quality equipment and the service you need, then come to Blue Ridge Sawmills. We're here to help you get the job done. Call or visit our Cana, Virginia store at 276-755-3833 or our Asheboro, North Carolina location at 336-964-8304. That's right, all about home construction here on WATA. And again, thanks to all of our listeners out there, both on the podcast as well as here on WATA on a Saturday morning. Thanks for that. We really appreciate all of you. And don't forget, you can get in touch with us at the Facebook page, All About Home Construction. And you can also send us an email, allabouthomeconstruction@gmail.com, of course, during the week. And then on Saturday mornings, give us a call live. But speaking of on the phone, we're speaking with Randy. He's over at the VFW Rock and Roll Kitchen this morning with the breakfast that's going on till 11 o'clock this morning. So get on over there if you're listening live and get you a good breakfast, right?
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Matter of fact, this little young man over here across from me now is on his second plate. So,
is he eating all the bacon?
No. Looks like he's got a half a gallon bucket of eggs, though.
Well, growing boys got to have growing eggs. Love it. So, well, we're talking a little bit this morning about the home builders. So the Home Building Association has put out a worksheet for homeowners, and it's basically a 10 essential checklist, right? It's a checklist. It goes from interior doors, interior and exterior doors, windows, roofing, HVAC, exterior products, trim and millwork, kitchen, bath and plumbing, flooring, and then lighting and home automation. And so, again, this is just a planning guide, right, Randy, of how do we go through this? Like, this is at the beginning. Okay, this is what I'm thinking, right? We've mentioned the doors and stuff like that, and the windows, and it just basically walks us through so that in the planning stage, we can make the plan and stick to it, right? We don't have to worry about change orders. We don't have to worry about halfway through of, oh, maybe I want this one finally. And then that's the one that you chose. But guess what? Now there's a wait list for it. And so, things like that. It kind of eliminates a lot of the headaches because you're planning ahead. And just like anything else, right? What is it? What is that Abraham Lincoln quote where, if you got 4 hours to chop down a tree.
Pardon me?
What's the Abraham Lincoln quote where it's like 4 hours to chop down a tree? I'm going to spend the first 3 sharpening the axe. To me, it's the same thing, right? It's planning ahead and coming up with it, getting everything in order to build in this case.
Right. And I mean, you was talking about HVAC.
Yep.
You got electric, you got natural gas. they're still listing oil here, and even geothermal and wood or coal.
Right.
You know, so those can be stoves, but you can't use that as a primary heat, wood and coal.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, insurance companies don't really like that, do they?
No.
So.
And but then your cooling system. Do you want a central air system? Do you want a central pump system?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want room units, like the mini splits?
And they're becoming more and more popular, right?
Yeah, and they're getting more and more energy efficient, too.
Right.
You know, it used to be, I think there's a mini split that will heat your house down below zero now.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool.
And that is, it's not gas or anything. It's an electric system.
That's good. So. That's cool. Well, you know, again, each one of those things depends on a lot of factors, like, you know, where you're at, for instance, because when you know, let's just take electrical, right? If I've got a heat pump here in the mountains, when it drops below a certain degree, that heat pump is no longer, it's relying on that, I guess, that electric furnace is what I'm trying to say.
It is.
You know, so,
it's got a heat unit in it on the heat pump.
Right. Right.
And if you want to, you know, they really work good as long as you insulate good.
Sure.
Because if you don't insulate good, then you're just pushing your money out the window.
Right. Right. Well, you know, another thing, like, so when on the cooling systems is here in the mountains, you know, we get a lot of people. It's like, oh, I don't need an air conditioner. I don't want one. But the air conditioner does more than just makes the air colder, right? The air conditioning really does kind of control the air, not just temperature, but also humidity. And so I think that's one element as far as like one of the advantages of at the beginning of building, putting in some kind of central air system, because you don't always have to use it. Like you don't always have to have it on, but those damp days, right? You can run the air conditioner and that'll help pull and draw some of that moisture out of the air.
Yes, it will.
And so I think, you know, and it's a lot easier to put it in now. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's like it costs more now than, you know, to put it in than to not put it in, but it's a lot more if you decide to go back later and put it in.
Correct. You know, we've all seen the cost since 2000, you know, escalate to the point that it just scares everybody.
Right.
And biggest thing I got to say about a homeowner, make sure you have a room big enough to put your furnace in.
Right.
Okay? Not some little tight hole, because that's going to cost you money down the road trying to get in there to work on that unit.
Right.
And sometimes you don't have it, but you got to try to make it big enough so you can get around it.
Exactly.
You got, you know, like the situation we're in now, where the furnace is a big furnace and in a little teeny hole. And when it breaks down, it's going to cost the homeowner quite a bit of money to be able to get in there and get it out.
I would say sometimes you're going to have to build a new door, right? I mean, I've seen those situations where it's like you're looking at it and you're like, well, it clearly came in before the house was built, because there is no way you're getting that back out.
Correct. And, you know, I've seen hot water heaters in the attic, and because there was never an area designed for it. And that just totally blows my mind.
That's the worst place.
It can't work here, but it does, you know, off the mountain.
Yeah. Well, water goes downhill, man. You get a leak up there, and you'd never know it until it's too late. And you're talking about a mess, man. Ooh.
Correct. And, you know, and he talked about a lot of furnaces we do now. We put humidifiers and dehumidifiers in them. You know, your air conditioner acts as a dehumidifier.
Right.
But with the air quality system, especially the tighter you get your house, the more you want that air quality to be and humidity to stay stable.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Well, and that's the trick, right? And you know, so many times we, for instance, you know, wood floors, right? Well, like I've had this discussion with people. It's like, you know, I'm, you know, put in the wood. Well, the wood's going to move in the summer and the winter. Like no matter how good of a job you do, it's going to move, right? Like because the conditions, the climate is changing,
Yes,
right?
They will. I don't care how many nails you put in them, they're going to move their whole lot.
Exactly. I mean, it's wood, and you know, tongue and groove ceiling's the same way. But the more you can control, you know, a lot of people think of that temperature. Oh, you know, I crank the temperature up, I turn the temperature down, right? The temperature isn't near as much as the issue. It's what goes with that temperature, which is the humidity. And, you know, a lot of times we think of, you know, temperature. Oh, it's hot or it's cold. What we don't think about is that humidity. Generally speaking, in the summer times, you're going to have wetter weather, and you're going to have to pull that moisture out. In the winter, it's typically going to be drier, and therefore you're going to have to put that water back in, because the more consistent you can keep it, both temperature and humidity, that's when the wood's going to be the most stable.
Well, you know, we got a house. The customers, when they leave the house, they have a computerized thermostat, so
right.
They can set it with their phone and stuff. But they put it on 50. Okay, that house, we still maintain it today, and that house does a lot better being kept at 50 than the other house that we did that they turn off in the wintertime.
And then that's where I was going to go next, right? Is when you close up the winter, you close it up, you fix all the drain pipes so it's not going to bust, but you're not controlling that that climate inside the house, right? And that is where the issue, especially when we're dealing with wood, comes, as far as cracking and splitting and moving, just, you know, spreading apart and getting too tight and things like that.
And we put pre-finished floors in it, the older house, and you can hear them pop and crack so they, you know, because of the moisture and stuff in them.
Yep.
And I mean, they're not coming up, but they just move. They move more than the other house where the house is sitting.
Exactly. Well, look, moving on down this list, right? The next thing in the checklist is the exterior products. And I like this because it's talking about it breaks it down into the front, the side, and the rear. And that's what I like, because, you know, a lot of times we want that curb appeal, right? And so the front, we may want to put a little more money, a little more appeal into it than what we do on the back side of the house that, you know, can't be seen. Maybe especially here in the mountains where no one can see the backyard, right? Like you're up against the woods and the mountains and stuff. And so maybe you can go with a cheaper siding on the back and something, you know, stone or masonry, for instance, on the front.
Well, keep your masonry on front around your entranceways and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we've seen a lot of houses with lap siding, then turn around and then they have machine shakes on top of them to accent them.
Right.
And but what I do is I look at products that we don't have to maintain.
Yes.
You know, everybody, the old lap siding, the wooden one we used to get, you know, it peels from time to time. Not like it used to, but that's when we had enamel paint, and, you know, the moisture got behind it, and so that pushed the paint off.
Right.
But now we come to hardy board, hardy plank, or smart siding. Now, if you get these pre-painted before they come to the job, they're encased in all four sides.
Yep.
So they're more stable. So that's the reason they don't pull us. They won't peel.
That's
latex
awesome.
paint don't peel anymore.
Well, cool. Yeah. Well, that's what I like. And but again, you know, this checklist kind of reminds you that, hey, like you said, like you know, maybe you wanted to accent around your doorway or something like that, or, you know, one of the things in the list here is shutters, and 99% of the shutters that exist on houses today are just decoration. They're not true closed, you know, block the window type shutters.
No, not at all.
And I mean, personally, I've never understood.
A lot of people like wooden blinds.
Right.
You know, where they go on the inside.
I've never quite understood the shutters just for the looks. I mean, I like a shutter. To me, a shutter's supposed to protect the window. Otherwise, why are you going to do it? You know, and so I'm not a big shutter fan, but it breaks you down again. You know, maybe you want
what you want.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You'll see more shutters on brick homes than you will wood siding.
Right. Just kind of throw that off and to give it a little more accent. Yeah. Well, let's move on down before we run out of time here on this this list. So trim work and millwork. And I certainly understand like what they mean by trim work and millwork, but I never thought about it in terms of like different rooms, because so many times it's like, I'm going to put this baseboard up in the house, you know, but I like that it breaks it down by the room, because, you know, if I have a hardwood floor in my living space, but not in my bedroom, maybe I want to go different trim.
Well, you're not going to, if you got a 10-foot high wall, you're not going to put a 3 1/4 baseboard on it. You're going to put a 4 1/4.
Right.
5 1/4. Same thing on the windows. You're not going to use it. Windows and doors, you're not going to use a 2 1/4 inch molding around your doors and windows. You're going to use 3 1/4.
Right.
And so that's the reason they got it broke down, because your foyer a little nicer. You know, you might want to go with a square edge in there to accent it, and then break off into other moldings at the rest of the house.
Right.
The rest of the house. And then they got them all broke down, because, you know, one of the lists is home office.
Yes.
You know, you might want to wainscot your office. You might want to put a nice crown on it. The great room depends on what you want.
Right.
You might want to put a fake stone facade on your TV wall.
Right. Yeah.
So there's just a lot of options that people don't understand. And see, it breaks it down into kitchen, breakfast, office, family, den, bonus room, powder room, mud room, storage room, master bedroom, and it goes all the way up to five bedrooms in your house.
And even the closets, right? Because if I'm going to cut corners in savings, I'm not really going to put any trim work inside the closet. You know, I mean,
no, generally drywall.
Right.
And the only thing, one thing we always did is we'd go with wooden racks versus the metal racks. Or what we all grew up with was a 1x12 that you hung had a 1-inch rod on it to hang your clothes on.
Right.
Well, with a wood rack sealed good, it allows air to move to it instead of the stuff just sitting on top of it.
Right. Yep. Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Just a lot goes into it.
Sure. But again, breaking it down, but it goes back to the planning beforehand, and you know, cabinets, right? When we talk about kitchens, like the kitchens are not just because of the appliances, but just in general, kitchens are really the most expensive part of the house, because cabinets are not cheap, because you have to do a wall differently if you know there's a cabinet going on it than you would the living room or something. And
you definitely want to put good framing in your kitchen.
Yeah. And we've all seen those pictures on Facebook roll through where you know the person walks in the next morning and all the cabinets are face down and all the dishes are on the floor, you know. And that's the thing. Like even a cheap cabinet, like if you save money and go with a cheap cabinet, you still have more of expense in that room than any other room in the house.
Well, sometimes you have a customer that wants those cheap cabinets. Sometimes they don't have a nail strip in the top of them, and you add one.
Yep. So,
or not really a nail strip, but a screw strip.
Right. And then, but then you have countertop choices. You know, what choices do you want? We could go a whole show about countertop choices. Do you want an island?
Sure can.
You know, do you want an island? Do you not want an island? Do you want, what type of sink do you want? What type of faucet do you want for that sink? You know, and are you going to have a wine storage? Are you going to have open shelving? You know, like there's so many, I guess, details that goes into the kitchen itself. You know, in terms of the design of the kitchen, that's, I think, again, if you have a plan going into it and stick with that plan, you're going to be fine. But that to me, I think, is one of those places that a lot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's probably one of the biggest areas of the house that gets the most change orders.
Yes, it does.
And so sticking,
can get a little ridiculous sometimes.
Exactly. Well, you know, it's like, I saw this countertop and now I want to change it. Well, awesome, but now you just cost a lot more money. So just having a plan and sticking with it, right? Yeah, I think is the number one thing. And same with bathrooms and
most of your cabinets. You can't take them back once you order your tops. People don't take that into consideration
because they're cut and designed for that space, right?
Yeah.
So cool.
Yes, they are.
Well, and that's the cool thing. And Randy, as before we wrap things up here, again, this goes on to flooring, bathroom and plumbing stuff, lighting, and so we will. I'll actually put this up on the page here in a little bit once I post the podcast. All about home construction on the Facebook page. We'll put this checklist up because it's really cool to look through, and it certainly kind of helps everyone in the planning stages.
Well, this is going to help people because I'm not a designer.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
My job is to build.
I was going to say, you build what I want. The trick is I got to know what I want, and that's what I like about this. And I think, and for those that are looking to remodel a house, I think you could really still use this same checklist. This is not it breaks it down into more details, and that's probably meant more for the new construction. But if you're looking to remodel, these are all still the same questions you should be asking.
Right.
For sure. So, well, cool stuff. Well, Randy, have fun in the Rock and Roll Kitchen. You'll be there for another 2 more hours?
Come on by.
That's it. Good stuff. Go by, give Randy a hard time. I dare everyone to go over. Enough people to go to make him have to cook extra food. That's my challenge for the high country. So get on over there. Well, Randy, June is here. Happy summer. Have fun doing hay this week, man.
I'm gonna try.
All right. Well, all about home construction. Thanks for listening to us. And Randy, I guess I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the podcast edition of All About Home Construction. We want to thank Skipper, Dave, and Bill for supporting the show. If you're enjoying this episode and you want to help us by creating some more awesome content, there are a few ways you can show your support. Subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. This actually helps us reach new listeners and climb the charts. And please share this episode with your friends and family. Word of mouth is always the best kind of advertising. You can support us directly through our page on Spotify. The links are in the show notes. Thanks for listening to us.